The principals who was on that Signal chat, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Advisor Waltz, thank you for joining us tonight. The president expressed complete confidence in you today and his entire cabinet. But how did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your Signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States. And he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
Is someone in your intel? Is someone in your intel team trying to cause trouble here? Because that's the scuttlebutt out there.
Look,
that
we have people. We have people. No, look, this is a great group. The president has a great team. This is not first term.
No, your team. I'm not talking about the other principals.
No. These were principals and a couple of staff that were coordinating, as you saw, having a policy discussion as we went forward, and then just in the days before what was an incredible strike. Not only did we take out people that the Biden team never could, that we took out headquarters, missile caches, and actually one of the leaders of the Houthi organization. We've since taken out several since. And, you know, that's what they don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the success here. They don't want to talk about the hostages getting released. They don't want to talk about the Black Sea ceasefire that we just put in place today as the president ends the largest land war in Europe, or the border, or the fact that Panama just kicked China out of the canal, and success after success after success. So they want to focus on this. It's embarrassing, yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happened.
So you don't know what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now whether he did.
Are you guys tracking this? I'm curious. Well, I was just talking to Elon. Like, what does Elon have to do with it? Well, I guess he's supposed to be the tech guru. Or tell you what, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps he's saying that Elon Musk has very tech savvy people in his orbit. And we will get to the bottom of it. Here's the thing. You clicked on this video because it said nitwit or such, or I think I put saboteur. And I am leaning towards saboteur. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kennedy from Fox News actually had a piece in the Daily Mail, and we're going to go over that. But it's crucial that you see this exchange first.
Deliberately, or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So your staffer did not put his contact information.
No,
but how did it end up in your phone?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to figure out. How his phone number got on his phone. That's what we're trying to figure out. You've never talked to the guy. And it just so happens that the one anti-Trumper, I mean, the main guy that went with the Russia hoax, the Fine People hoax, the Charlottesville, I mean, every single thing that came Donald Trump's way, you had the one guy that ends up on your phone. I gotta tell you, that's some kind of coincidence. That's not just a normal coincidence. That's a big coincidence. That's a big one. I mean, of all the coincidences that are out there, that one's a big one. And it's funny where it's like, well, hang on a second. So you're saying that you're telling us that you had this phone number and you had no idea who it was connected to, and it just so happens that that person is invited into this special chat at the precise moment that you're pulling off this surgical strike in Yemen. And it just so happened that he got it at the right time. He didn't get it after. I mean, I guess what use would that be? But about the time that it was about to go down, in fact, 2 hours prior. Okay. No, let's just play along.
But that's a pretty big problem.
That's what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then then somehow it gets sucked in.
someone sent you that
it gets sucked in.
Was there?
Wait, what? Did you get? Whoa. I'm sorry. I got to rewind that because that didn't make sense to me. Did it make sense to you? I'm sure that everybody out there has pulled out a name, but the number wasn't attached or was wrong wait, what?
Technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So your staffer did not put his contact information. But how did it end up in your phone?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but that's a pretty big problem.
That's what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then somehow it gets sucked in.
someone sent you that.
You have someone else's contacts. You have someone else's contacts. Is that what he said? You have someone else's contacts. And so somehow this one gets sucked in. And it's not just some person. It's one of Donald Trump's most ardent haters. The odds of that. I mean, to come on, look, hey, wait, let's say that Michael Waltz is telling you exactly what happened. Okay? I'm not accusing him of anything. Okay? But you tell me, does that make sense to you? Is that a reasonable take on this? That somehow you had some other contacts from another person and it got sucked in. And the person, just one person, just one. And it just happened to be a never Trumper, a Trump hater that's going around now on MSNBC disparaging Pete Hegseth. And Mike Waltz, but really, Pete Hegseth. I don't know. Hey, I'm just asking questions.
Sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was on the chat?
So the person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that? What person?
Well, I'm not. Look, okay. Laura, I take responsibility. I built the.
So he's not going to tell you who was supposed to be on there. Did you get that? Because the person that was supposed to be on the call, turns out, wasn't. But he thought he was. Turns out that he wasn't. The person that was supposed to be on the call. There was the one person that was supposed to be on the call that he thought was on the call, but he wasn't on the call. You're the national security advisor to the most powerful person on the planet. And wait, what? And by the way, I gotta, because it would be disingenuous for me to not mention, you're on Laura Ingraham, Fox News, a friend of the administration. What? That's not what? Is that our bounds? You're talking to people who love Donald Trump. I mean, in this instance, I think that you would go to somebody like, Tucker Carlson, where although he loves Donald Trump and he wants America to be great again, he's going to drill you down to the truth. What? See, I'm actually not buying this. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm not buying any of it. And I know I'm supposed to. Hey, this guy's on our team. Okay. I never said that he isn't. So I mentioned to you that Kennedy from Fox News, well, she has a theory. And I am leaning towards her theory because after hearing this, it makes sense. He didn't answer any questions. That's your takeaway. Don't think that he answered her questions. He didn't. It wasn't one of his staffers. That much he knows. How can you possibly know that if you're asking Elon Musk to get involved? How do you know that it wasn't one of your staffers? How can you make that assertion 100%, but you're trying to figure out, you said by your own words, who actually did it? Who put that on your phone? And does anyone else have, control of your phone? Are there instances in which your phone is not manned? In other words, is anyone on your staff have access to your phone? Can they just get on your phone and, hey, maybe when you're in Air Force One and one of the staffers is bored, maybe you want to hand him your phone so he can play one of the games on your phone that he doesn't have on his phone. Is that perhaps what went down? I'm just asking as a curious guy. Who got on your phone? How did that happen? But you're telling me your staff is clear of any wrongdoing, but you still haven't gotten to the bottom of it. But it wasn't your staff. Well, how do you know it's not your staff if you still don't know who did it? Mike? This comes from the Daily Mail. He says, let's see, I'll start here. Then there was and she's talking about the different theories that are floating around about how this Goldberg got on his mail or got in the signal chat. Then there's the fat finger theory that Waltz had already been chatting with Goldberg and somehow inadvertently added him to the Yemen thread in a moment of thick-thumbed hurry. It's compelling, but I have a better idea. That Waltz knowingly added Goldberg in the ham-handed attempt to turf a political rival. In this hypothetical, Waltz most likely targeted would surely be Hegseth. Let me read that again. In this hypothetical, Waltz's most likely target would surely be Pete Hegseth, who, as the Secretary of Defense, led the chat and was most at risk of being made to look like an incompetent amateur. Here's my thinking, she says. Trump is turned out in 2028. That's it. It's over. And only one of these aspiring mega hotshots will be able to carry Donald's mantle. J.D. Vance, with his dreamy blue eyes, come on, Kennedy, stop it, is often considered the front runner, but he's a neophyte to the cause. Hegseth, meanwhile, is the ultimate loyalist and has been on Team Trump from the beginning. In other words, the golden boy has a target on his back. The golden boy being Pete Hegseth. And notice, everyone was calling for Pete Hegseth's head. As Mike Waltz takes the gesture, I take full responsibility. So what's going on here? I saw a poll, by the way. People are asking for Pete Hegseth and Michael Waltz to step down. Now, I'm going to tell you, that's not going to happen. Okay? There was no classified information that was transferred. And by the way, if there were, I've said this before, but it does bear repeating. If there were classified stuff, Jeffrey Goldberg would be in jail right now. If he shared classified information of a military strike, he'd be in jail. There are laws against it. So what they're banking on is that you don't know that. They're banking on the fact that you don't know and can't put together that if this thing were classified, I'd be in jail, but most American people, particularly MSNBC viewers, don't have a clue. And so we can just tell them, well, these are classified, communications. Sorry. Look, hey, there was a time where I would have said, no way, that this is a great team and they all have each other's back. Sorry, I do not believe that anymore. I believe that people can be duplicitous. I believe that people are gunning for one another. Remember, I told you, when Donald Trump was picking his cabinet, he's picking very, very high-level thinkers. All, by the way, charismatic in their own right. From RFK Jr. to Tulsi Gabbard to Pete Hegseth, it goes on and on and on. These people are rock stars in the GOP. I mean, anybody that was actually having a symposium would be thrilled to have anyone out of Trump's orbit, out of Trump's cabinet, to be a speaker. Are you kidding me? These are all rock stars. Kristi Noem, rock star. So the thought that there's no such refuge and nobody would do that and nobody is trying to, oh no, honey. Sorry, I am not that naive. There was a time when I was. There was a time when you could blame me for that. Not now. Sorry, I've seen way too much. I do not buy it. Let's see here. All right. I want to go. Oh, let me say this, please. If you're still watching, okay, will you please press the like button? That really helps the channel. Okay. If you like that last story, please press the like button. Smash the like button, as the kids say. Let's see here. I think I have a different story I want to talk about, and that is GOP moves to defund chronically biased NPR PBS after disastrous hearing. For those of you who don't know, you've been paying for this garbage. Yeah, they're propagandizing you with your money. Yeah, they're feeding you this premium crapalula on your dime. Okay? Hang on a second, because you won't believe this, but it's so delicious. I couldn't not show it.
Yesterday in deep red Texas, Democrats attempted to reach across the aisle in a town hall.
One of the principals who was on that signal chat, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Advisor Waltz, thank you for joining us tonight.
Which one is it? Hang on a second. I thought I had it in here. Oh, okay. Now I know where it is. All right. And here we go.
I now recognize the gentleman from Ohio, Jim Jordan, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Maher, who is Uri Berliner?
Mr. Berliner is a former senior editor,
That's all?
a former senior business editor for NPR.
How long do you work at NPR?
I believe he was there just over 25 years.
25 years? Award-winning journalist? Did he win any awards?
Our time did not
Peabody
overlap.
Award? That's pretty important, isn't it?
That is,
So
absolutely.
pretty distinguished journalist, right?
Certainly.
And he wrote a long story about what you do at NPR. Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions, no.
Well, Mr. Berliner, in his story last year, wrote, in the D.C. area, editorial positions at NPR, he said he found 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans. Is that accurate?
We do not track the numbers or the voter registration, but I find that
Was award-winning journalist who worked 25 years at NPR, Mr. Berliner, was he lying when he wrote that?
I am not presuming such. I just we don't track that information about our journalists.
87 to 0, and you're not biased?
I think that is concerning if those numbers are accurate.
It's concerning. I mean, it wasn't 44-43. It wasn't 60-27. It wasn't 70-17. It wasn't even 80-7. It was 87 Democrats.
Every now and again, Jim Jordan, the congressman out of Ohio, is he's comic relief sometimes.
0 Republicans, and you say NPR is not biased. How about the big stories over the last few years? According to Mr. Berliner, again, he wrote on the Trump-Russia story, he wrote, at NPR, we hitched our wagon to Trump's most visible antagonist, Representative Adam Schiff. He said they interviewed him 25 times. Is that accurate?
I was not there at the time, but those numbers sound accurate. Yes.
Those sound accurate. But then he said when the Mueller report came out and Robert Mueller said he found no evidence of collusion, he said Russiagate faded from our programming. Is that accurate?
Yes. You see, they were Russia Russia, Russia. I mean, week after week, month after month, year after year, Russia. Okay, the noose was tightening. The walls were closing in on the Trump, cartel. And then, of course, the report comes out. He didn't collude. He didn't conspire. He didn't coordinate anything with Russia. Everybody went their way as if they didn't do this, as if they weren't complicit. And NPR wants you to think, no, we're perfectly biased. We're not unbiased. I mean, we're not biased at all one way. We're just calling balls and strikes.
Again, I was not there at the time. I couldn't say.
You couldn't say?
I was not at NPR at the time.
You didn't prepare for that? You knew we were going to ask you about this guy, didn't you? It's come up like 6,000 times already in the hearing.
I just couldn't say whether it faded from our coverage, sir.
How about this story? October 2020, the New York Post had the Hunter Biden laptop story, and one of those editors, I guess one of those 87 Democrat editors, said this: we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories. We don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' times on stories that are just pure distractions. Was that a pure distraction story?
Our current editorial leadership believes that was a mistake, as do I.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That was a mistake on their part. It was a mistake. You got to give us that. It's very easy to say that now. Why? Well, they need your money. They are desperate to get your money. By the way, I'm going to show you something about this gal that right now that's on your screen, Miss Mar, or Mahar, or I think it's just Mar, like Bill Maher, because that's how he spells it. By the way, I'm going to show you something. Trust me, she is not, I repeat, she is not unbiased. She is like hard. Your truth is special.
Yeah, the whole country knows that was a mistake. Definitely impacted the election, or I think it certainly impacted the election. How about the COVID origin story? That's a pretty big story too, right? Mr. Berliner said, we became fervent members of the team natural origin, even declaring that the lab leak was debunked by scientists. Turns out, though, the lab leak is what most people think actually caused the COVID virus.
Sorry, is there a question there?
There is. You guys were 0 for 3 on the three of the biggest stories in the last 5 years. You guys were 0 for 3, and yet you maintain that NPR is not biased?
Congressman, I do not believe we are politically biased. No, we are a nonpartisan organization.
Nonpartisan organization. What's happening to your listeners over the last 5 years? Went up, down, or stayed the same?
It has gone up and down and is now going back up.
Well, I thought 5 years ago it was at 60 million. And you said in your opening statement, I think, 43 million.
That's correct.
So 43 million now, and it was at 60 million 5 years ago. I can do some math. That looks like it went down.
And is now going back up.
It's now going back up?
Yes, it is.
How much has it went back up?
It's gone up a couple of millions over the past years.
So you went from 60 million to 41 million. Now you're back up to 43 million.
In a year's time, I'm very proud of that growth, sir.
Okay, you're proud of that growth. Okay. But
here's the bottom line with all this nonsense. NPR PBS is hot propaganda from the Democrats to indoctrinate not only just you, but your children as well. Okay? Under the guise of public service. Now, you need to understand this about this gal, because I gotta tell you, this is rich.
A list of animals that have been to space? It's pretty simple. But what about the harder topics, where our greatest collective challenges lie? In other aspects of our lives, these just are often our most contentious conversations. Our disagreements tend to erupt over what the truth of the issue actually is. Conversations about politics and religion are difficult conversations on Wikipedia too. But one of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth. They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is
giving reverence to the truth may be a distraction. That's the gal that you just saw Jim Jordan questioning. She says truth may be getting in the way. Right now, she's head of NPR. Truth may be getting in the way. Hey, wait, why are you so transfixed on getting the truth? What's going on with you? What's wrong with you? Maybe we should have the police visit you. Maybe you just never learned how to comply. Maybe you just need to learn how to comply. Like James Carville said, you never learned how to shut up. Yeah. And this like she is like a cardboard cutout. She is like Gavin Newsom. I mean, she is swamp material. I mean, she is like knee deep. She was in every organization the government ever had. And now she's on Capitol Hill, desperate to get your money. In fact, that whole the hearing, Jim Jordan points out the fact that she was, fundraising off it. Look what these dastardly mega Republicans are doing. They're trying to get rid of NPR and PBS. See, look, here's the thing. Okay. Propaganda works. There's a reason that they use it. Propaganda works. And they're going to do everything in their power to keep that ball rolling. Okay? And so even if, and I tell you, this is a big if Donald Trump can right the ship, and he is really on his way. How long has he been in office now? 2 months? And he is really on his way. Like he put together a team that is like killing it. Despite Mike Waltz and, the whole debacle there. He's killing it. He's knocking it out of the park. And they're desperate to hold on to the NPRs and the PBSs and all that kind of crap. And even NBC is looking to offload MSNBC because they don't want the stench of them on their brand. So this is good news. You guys let me know. Are you okay with getting rid of PBS and NPR? Because I am.
Yesterday in deep red Texas, Democrats attempted to reach across the aisle in a town hall. The headliners included failed Senate candidate, a failed gubernatorial candidate, and a failed presidential candidate. That was Beto O'Rourke. And by his side was failed vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, who gave this take for why Democrats keep losing.
And our culture proves that our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them.
We got in this mess. We did not do this. Well, weren't you part of the we? It was you and it was Kamala Harris. You guys were the we. Well, if that wasn't bad enough, Waltz sent this message to young voters.
And to all the young people who are here, I just pause for a moment and look around and look at, I'm especially talking about these old white guys who seem to disappoint us on a regular basis in this country.
All right, Marie, so we weren't bold enough. We weren't proud of these policies. We didn't explain woke. We didn't explain immigration. Okay, well, let's pull this up. This is from the New York Times. The ad about they, them is who Waltz and Kamala are for. They are not for you. Well, that ad, according to Harris's leading super PAC, shifted the polls 2.7 percentage points toward Trump. You look at the poll on immigration yesterday conducted by Pew, and what you find are 83% of Americans are for all illegal immigrants being deported or some. So it seems to me it's a losing fact pattern of issues. So doubling down on said issues may not be the post-mortem Democrats were looking for.
Well, look, there's a lot of soul searching going on in the Democratic Party. We've seen Bernie Sanders and AOC out there getting huge crowds. We've seen Tim Walz and other people doing town halls in Republican areas where Republicans won't do them. So we're trying to do a lot to figure out how to come back from this. But every party does this when they lose, and we did lose, right? I will say, in terms of that they-them ad, like one of the reasons that people think it was so successful is that the Kamala team didn't take it seriously, didn't push back, didn't actually want to engage on these issues. So what I would say is, on many issues, President Trump won in part because the Democratic messaging was not as strong and forceful as it should have been. But I would caution a note to my Republican friends that when you...
Hang on a second. Because they're not getting it. They are doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on bad policy. Here's the thing. They think it has something to do with bad messaging. Like somehow they didn't have the right messenger. Like they needed a somebody who could, really galvanize the people with these god-awful policies. Like, they're not getting it. For those of you out there who you don't understand what's happening right now, they don't get it. Like, your policies sucked. Your policies burned down LA. Your policies led to you losing every swing state. Your policies have people who would have never imagined voting for Donald Trump, voting for Donald Trump. Yeah, there's one actor, I forget his name, he was like suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. But after the whole Palestine-Israel thing, he said, hey, man, I got to tell you, Trump, voting for Trump is on the table. I may have to vote for him. Your policies suck. And we're not just, and here's the thing, and just so that you understand the dynamic here, if we come in and we say, well, we're going to actually close the border, well, what's your counter to that? We're going to get rid of inflation. What's going to be your counter? You're going to keep inflation? How are you going to counter it? And by the way, particularly during the election, if you do have a plan to stop inflation, why haven't you implemented it? That doesn't make any sense. You do have a plan to tackle inflation, but you just not going to implement it. So why are you even running for president? Like, how do you counter? Well, we're going to get rid of gang members. We're going to start, going through communities and cities, and we're going to get rid of all of these bad actors. How do you counter that? And by the way, you see how they're countering it. They're countering it by saying, hey, they need to stay here. You need to bring them back. How dare you kick out all of those gang members? You don't have, they need, a due process. That's what you hear them saying right now. See, that my point is, you can't counter right. See, if you're either, if you let's say you hate free speech, Donald Trump comes along and says, hey, free speech is a thing. It's a hallmark of Americana, and we are going to restore it. Well, your only counter has to be, no, we're opposed to it. We shouldn't have free speech. How do you counter America with anti-America? I guess that's my point. When all you have is open borders, taking taxpayer dollars to do ungodly things, chopping off healthy organs, you cater everything to 1% of the populace. How are you going to counter? No, we're going to stop all that. Well, you see what's happening. They're going to double down on it. Well, you got to ask yourself the question, why is anyone listening to Tim Walz? He lost. Where does what is it? O'Rourke? Beto O'Rourke? Like, why is anyone listening to these failed candidates? Like, there is a guy, he was mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel. He was one of Clinton's guys. I mean, you think he was his chief political advisor. And he said at the time when Stacey Abrams lost, he was asking, I think it was O'Rourke. When he lost, he was like, why are people still trying to trot him out there? He lost. He's a losing candidate. Why are they trotting out losing candidates? Well, in their blue bubble, no. He just needed a different, messenger.
I think you are winning and you are on top. You can get a little complacent. And we have seen in some of these special elections in Pennsylvania, a plus, double-digit Trump seat in the state house. Democrats won. Mike Waltz's seat in Florida, tighter than it should be. Elise Stefanik not going to the UN because they're worried they're going to lose a double-digit Trump seat to Democrats. So I think that Democrats have a real opportunity here, in part because the Trump administration is really overplaying their hand. You're right that Democrats want to deport illegal immigrants and support that. They don't support people with legal visas getting disappeared off the streets, or Kristi Noem standing in front of prisoners in very uncomfortable, like Nazi-style ideology. So I think Republicans are overplaying their hand.
Nazi-style ideology? She was standing in front of a prison in El Salvador with hardened criminals behind
That picture with all those men shirtless behind her was one of the most offensive things as someone who has spent my entire life studying this.
The Democrats trying to slur over Nazis.
It's not a slur, Larry. That imagery was one of the most offensive things I've ever seen.
You do realize she was standing in a prison in El Salvador.
Why does she have to stand in front of it?
Well, it is sending a message. And Lisa, coming to you, the highest issue for which Donald Trump has approval in every poll I have seen is immigration. So,
for those of you who haven't seen it, Kristi Noem, head of Homeland Security, is standing in front of a prison where you got a bunch of these gang members. They're tattooed up the yin yang. And she's saying, hey, you come to our country, this is where you're going to end up. That's what she's talking about. That's like Nazi imagery to her. Well, those were not criminals in concentration camps in Germany. Those were Jews. But one of the things that surprised me as a kid when I learned who they weren't criminals. They were dentists, civil servants. Some were lawyers. Some were doctors. Some were just average, everyday people. Some were they were just like normal, everyday people. To equate Kristi Noem warning people, do not come here illegally. This is where you're going to end up, period, particularly if you're one of these bad actors. Comparing that to Nazi Germany, this is why they continue to lose. That they can't see themselves. It's amazing.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, and I find it offensive to, one, have drug dealers, gang members to be allowed in the United States, or to have people here who hate America and sympathize with Iran or Hamas. That is what I find personally offensive, and I want them gone. And if they're in El Salvador, better yet. Beyond that, one thing you said that I don't agree with is you said that Kamala Harris just didn't do a good enough job defending herself. The Kamala Harris is for they, them, I am for you ad showcased Kamala Harris in her own words, talking about supporting the taxpayer-funded transgender surgeries for prison inmates. So she didn't need to defend herself. It was her own words that got her into trouble.
I don't know if you guys knew that. When he ran that ad, I'm for you. Well, guess what? He literally used Kamala Harris's own words. She was interviewing a trans woman. And in interviewing the person, she came out and said, yeah, this is going to be one of my policies. This is what I'm for. Even Charlemagne the fraud. Okay. A black dude that voted for Kamala said, this is insane. It's like you're like, this is like stuff where it's like, you're not even getting close to reality. Like, reality is over there. You're like way over there. You're not going to take my tax dollars to use that for that crap.
And shifted the vote 2.7% with those who viewed it. Also, even following Tim Walz and Beto O'Rourke is following two losers. And I don't say that to be mean. They just are actually losers. Tim Walz just lost the popular vote to President Trump. And then you look at Beto O'Rourke. He lost the Senate race in Texas. He had to drop out of the 2020 presidential race. And he just lost the gubernatorial race to Greg Abbott. So if you want to follow two losers, what will that end up in? Losing.
Tim Walz, by the way, could be in some legal trouble in Minnesota because he has gone around trashing Tesla and Tesla stock. Now, listen up. Pension funds in Minnesota own the stock. They own a fair piece of the stock. He is on the retirement board of the pension funds that own the Tesla stock that he himself is trashing. He has a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens and taxpayers of Minnesota to promote a higher retirement rate of return, not to trash the stocks.
I don't know how he got away with that. He has a fiduciary duty because for those of you who don't know, his state is heavily invested in Tesla stock because Tesla stock was good premium stock. It was only going up. And so when you, as the governor and on the board that's looking after the stocks that the state is investing for the retirement, you have a fiduciary duty to make sure that you make as much money as possible. You have a duty to do it. Dude, what are you doing?
that they own and give them a lower rate of return. And it may well be that somebody is going to bring this up and haul his, shall I say, white rear end, no, Reagan's word, white keister into court and tell him to stop damaging the retirement funds of the people of Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't know about a legal challenge, but perhaps there is a lack of self-awareness here when you have the old white guy who lost elections criticizing the old white guys who won elections to a certain extent. But it is interesting that they're getting out, and they're getting out early, perhaps kind of reestablishing their own relevancy as they go forward politically and trying to find a place. But they're, in Texas, conservative areas, Beto hasn't done well there or won there, but they're out there with the same messaging, however, which I think is really interesting. They're really staying the course and saying we didn't say it loud enough. We didn't say it in the right way. Not that we're...
It's like, we didn't say it in the right way. See, that's what's very perplexing to me. No, you said it loud and clear. Like everyone understood what you were saying. It's not like people didn't understand what DEI meant. Everyone understood what you were saying, which is why they voted against you. You did. You were clear on all of the trans rights. You were clear about, girls in sports, competing with girls in sports. You were really clear that you were against that. So you don't have to clarify. So everybody they got it loud and clear, which is why you lost. I gotta tell you, some of this stuff is like, are you doing this on purpose? It's almost as if you were to tell me that Donald Trump had a surrogate that he installed in the Democratic Party, and he is suggesting some of the most outlandish things ever, it'd be very difficult to argue against it. They're just shooting themselves in the foot. But by the way, when your enemy is destroying themselves, just stand back and let them do it. Particularly when you're yelling, hey, stop it. Don't do this to kids. Stop it. Okay, we don't want our children taken to gay strip bars. We don't want that. What about that? It's insane. And so I don't know if you guys know, Bill Maher is going to go meet with Donald Trump. What do you think that's going to go? Do you think that's going to go sideways? I don't think so. You know what's going to happen. He'll still have his disagreements. No, I'm predicting this is what's going to happen. Bill Maher is going to come back and go, yeah, I met with him and disagreed with some of them, but he's a nice guy. And he was affable. We disagreed on some things, agreed on other things. Turns out a lot of things that Donald Trump believes, I believe. We don't need an open border. We got to close the border. Inflation is bad. It's not good for the poor people. And by the way, it's good that we're not engulfed in more wars. That's a good thing. Bill Maher is going to, I believe that he is going to have to walk away thinking, sorry, I got to agree with him. I have to remind everyone, Donald Trump is not the consummate Republican. He was a New York liberal. Go look it up. When everybody's calling him a racist, just remember, he was on their team. There's a reason that Jesse Jackson gave him an award. There's a reason that Al Sharpton was hanging out with him. They know the truth. It's really fascinating to me, and I guess they're not going to stop. Now, remember I told you that this won't end well.
A preliminary assessment of the suspect's social media activity indicates some very loose but self-proclaimed ties to the Communist Party USA social media group, as well as social media groups called Revolutionary Communist International, Hidden Palestine, Palestine Action, and a variety of other social media groups. That is part of our investigation, is to dig further into it and to be able to determine additional motive and other potential concerns.
The suspect accused of scorching Teslas with Molotov cocktails at a Las Vegas dealership now facing federal charges. Officials say the attack had some of the hallmarks of terrorism. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin joins us now. I want to pull up this about charges against Paul Kim: arson, property damage, and a possession and manufacture of explosives or fire devices, and discharging firearm into abandoned structure vehicle. He's in some pretty serious trouble.
Good morning, Dana. Absolutely. I mean, this crime and this attack was very significant. It's a priority. It was a priority from the onset for us. And ultimately, we've put all of our resources behind it to make sure that we solve this case in record-breaking time. In fact, over 250 detectives, agents, analysts, and specialists worked around the clock for 8 days just to ensure that we held the person responsible for this attack.
The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, was on last night with Laura Ingraham. Here's what she said.
That was remarkable police work, working with the state police, our FBI. They have been going nonstop on this case. This guy is in custody. Laura, he is facing 5-year minimum mandatory to 20 years in prison. And this was great police work. This guy thought he got away with it. So these people better look out. They better cut it out, because we are coming after you. And at my direction, there will be no negotiating on these people. We are not doing any plea negotiations on them.
Well, these people that are fixed on burning and attacking and these Teslas, that's why you see them going, they're being caught keying, Teslas. It's like it's not going to end well. These cars are packed with cameras. I mean, eventually, particularly for something like this, where you are firebombing a dealership. Remember MSNBC? They said, no, Pam Bondi's wrong. You have a right to stand on the sidewalk. You can't stop me from doing that. Well, she never said you couldn't stand on the sidewalk. You can stand on the sidewalk and hold signs. You can tell all of your friends and family, you can buy yourself a bullhorn and stand out on the street and demand nobody buy a Tesla. And no one's going to stop you. You don't have a constitutional right to firebomb a charging station. You don't have a constitutional right to use a firearm against a Tesla car. You don't have a constitutional right to vandalize a Tesla. Where are these people coming from? Oh, these are Kamala Harris voters. This is the whacked out left who champion, Jasmine Crockett. She's a great messenger. So says Sonny Hostin. She's a great messenger. It's like she literally mocked the governor of her state for being in a wheelchair. But Sonny says she's a great messenger. It's unbelievable. I mean, I gotta tell you, they never learn. And I guess at the end of the day, that's good for us. I don't know. This is like one of the fascinating times to be alive in America because you are watching the realignment. Because look what Donald Trump did. You know how many Democrats is now working for him on his cabinet? I mean, it's unheard of. There is a realignment. And it is because Democrats went so far off the left cliff that normal people that were Democrats, like Elon, he was a Democrat. Joe Rogan, he's a lefty. He's a Democrat. He made it clear he was going to vote for Bernie Sanders. Joe Rogan was going to vote for Bernie Sanders. RFK Jr. I don't know if you guys know, but Jimmy Dore, everyone is leaving their party. And no one seems to be concerned and reeling it back. Instead, they sent out Tim Walz and Beto O'Rourke to say that, yeah, that's right. We are going to be woke, and we're going to be more than woke, and yeah, we're gonna shove our policies down your throat. It's like, okay, you go with that. Like my mom used to say, you do it over there, I'll watch from over here. All right, guys, for those of you who would like to know what cigar I am smoking, this is the Don Pippin from... And I gotta tell you, man, this is only the second one I've had, and it's great. I just figured that it was kind of like a boutique cigar because I'd never heard of it. And if you have, leave a comment. I've never heard of Don Pippin. But to make a cigar like this, you know what I mean? I mean, on your first, and this one is called My Father. This is My Father, Nicaragua. And it is a Toro size, which is 6 by, this one is 56. Typically it could be 54, 6 by 54. But I gotta tell you, when you make a cigar this well, you must have been you've been doing it for a while, because this is awesome. If you can get your hands on one, it's a Don Pippin from, and you will not be disappointed. All right. Hey, by the way, my live channel on Rumble, the live streaming, I am going to go, it's going to go Monday through Thursday. Okay. 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. And, on Friday, I will be doing, Cigar Friday. So there you go. All right, guys, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, smash that like button and subscribe. And if you're following me on Rumble, please press that follow button. And until the next time, God bless.